When you touch the painting, you smear a bit of the paint as if it's still damp. When you touch the painting, this short, blustery man reminds you vaguely of President Roosevelt. Despite his diminutive frame, his bearing is self-assured and cocky, and his pince-nez only adds to the aura of distinguished snobbery. Good evening, Dr. Carrington.
Good evening, Miss Bow. Good evening.
You hear muffled voices coming through the door to Yvette's office. Thank you for coming to see me, Olympia. This is very nice of you.
You're very welcome, my dear. What can I do for you?
Oh, you see, I found this strange bone, and I said to myself, Yvette, if anyone can tell you what this is, it would be Olympia.
A bone, you say? How fascinating. Where did you find it?
I found it right here in the museum. Here it is, Doctor.
Now, let me see. Ha ha! Yvette, you silly girl. This is a chicken bone.
It is?
Yes, of course. Why, it is still greasy. You got this at dinner, didn't you?
Oh, you have caught me, Olympia. I was playing the little joke on you.
You are a funny girl, Yvette, but I am quite fond of you.
Olympia, we are the good friends, no? I have the problem I wish to talk to you about.
Oh, certainly. What is it?
Come closer so I can whisper it to you. It is very personal, and I want no one to overhear.
Oh, my. Oh, my. Oh, my.
A careful It's half of The bottle says Dr. Moribund's guaranteed snake oil.
Good evening, Miss Bow.
Oh, you startled me.
Good. It gets the blood flowing, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose so.
I see we're looking at my snake oil.
Well, I was just looking around.
I'm sure you meant no harm.
What's the snake oil for, anyway?
It repels snakes, of course. Comes in handy when I'm working in the basement. I lost a load of Egyptian cobras down there a few weeks ago, and I occasionally come across one of those little darlings. Those snakes always want to bite me, but I'm sure they don't mean anything by it. It's just their way. They get nervous very easily, you know. Normally, I love to watch them kill things. My Barney will kill anything he can sink his teeth into.
Charming.
Well, I'd like to chat some more, but I've got to rush off and meet that young Steve fellow. He promised to show me his scars. See you later.
You pick it up and place it in your purse. Don't touch it. You don't know where it's been. Backlit, you can read the words typed into the carbon paper. Ernie, Big Al called to see if you could do some fencing for him next week. He says he'll make it worth your while to do a fast fencing job. You hear muffled voices coming through the door to Yvette's office.
Come a little closer, Monsieur Nazir. I am wanting to show you something.
And what would that be, Miss Delacroix?
Look at the palm of my hand.
It is a lovely palm, to be sure. But what am I supposed to see?
You see this line, monsieur? It is my love line.
My goodness, Miss Delacroix. It goes all the way up your arm and disappears up your sleeve.
Would you like to see where it ends up, Ramses?
Well,
Have you ever been to Paris, Ramses?
no, I can't say I ever have.
Then you have never seen the Eiffel Tower?
No.
Well, by all means, let me show you.
Miss Delacroix, please. I'm a married man. Oh, dear.
Have you forgotten who let you into the museum, Ramses? Have you forgotten who showed you the secret room for your little ceremonies? You haven't, have you?
No, I haven't, but...
Then you will let me give you the grand tour of the tower, no?
We'll have to go somewhere else. I don't feel safe here.
Lead the way, monsieur.
You pick it up. Countess and Ziggy at 1 a.m. Medieval armor display. While this is an interesting approach, it serves no practical purpose. Rubbing the charcoal over the notepad has made the imprint readable. Yvette 8 o'clock Egyptian rum, Tut 10:15 Egyptian rum, Carrington 11 o'clock his office. It's the latest thing in office telecommunications technology, an intercom master unit. You touch the intercom unit, completely missing the buttons, and the whole point apparently. You touch the intercom crackles and you overhear a conversation.
Oh, I so love your scars, Wolfie. Show them to me again, darling.
They are yours to admire, my strudel.
Hoopa! Very, very nice.
Ja, and I have this new bone for your collection.
Ah, such a large bone, too. Where did you find it?
I've been carrying this bone around for years. It is yours now, my Fräulein. You may do with it what you will.
I'm impressed by your generosity, Wolfie.
You touch the... You touch... You touch... You touch... You touch... You touch the...
Oh, my lover, how do you manage to do it so many times?
Sure, and a man's got to do what a man's got to do.
And you do it so well.
Try and keep your voice down, lass. Someone might hear us.
I do not care, my amour. Life, she is something we only enjoy once.
Sure and begorra, I do this at least 50 times a day to stay in shape.
50 times, ooh la la, and what do you call this movement?
Sit-ups, lass. I also do 50 push-ups each day, then I run a few miles.
The intercom crackles and you overhear a conversation.
I'm telling you, pal, you're not supposed to be down here.
Nothing poisonal, Mac, but Archie said I could scope the place out.
Well, he didn't say anything to me about it. Neither did Mr. Hamlet. And he's the chief of security.
It's okay, Mac. Don't get your britches in an uproar. Trust me.
I'd only trust you about as far as I can throw you.
Hey now, there ain't no need for fiscal violence, Mac.
I'll give you 10 seconds. If you aren't out of my sight by then, I'm gonna hurt you real bad.
You're touchy, ain't ya? But I was done down here anyways. See you around, Mac.
Not if I can help it.
You touch the When you press the button, all you hear is static. When you press the button, When you press You pick it up and place it in your purse.
Please, my dear. Please, my dear.
Oh dear, the light bulb blew out. You hope someone will invent a reliable light bulb one of these days. While this is an interesting You pick it up and place it in your... You hear muffled voices coming through the door to Yvette's office. You hear muffled voices come...
Well, lass, we've known each other a long time, and I'm not ready to get married yet. But I know one thing for sure. I love you.
Oh, my great detective, this feeling, it is mutual.
Just be keeping in mind that I'd have to kill you if I ever found out you were sleeping with someone else.
What? Oh, you are to be making the little joke, no? Your sense of humor, it is magnifique.
I've already had one bad marriage, and it won't happen again. It's been a long time since I've been able to trust anyone as much as I trust you.
This is very flattering, my love. I am never to be knowing someone like you either. You are so good and so kind.
Well, I try, lass. I try. It's not easy being a cop in this town. The place is lousy with criminals, even in the police force.
Oh no, how terrible.
Sure, and it's a hard thing when a cop goes bad. I've seen it happen. A cop spends years fighting crime and watching the hoods get rich while he risks his life to make just a few bucks. The first time a cop takes a bribe, it bothers him. Oh, but then it gets easier.
You are such a strong man, my Ryan. You would never be accepting the payoff, no?
Sure, and I'm shocked that you'd even say such a thing, Yvette.
I'm sorry, my love. I should have known better.
You'll have to show me how sorry you are. Kiss me.
Gladly, my love. How can I resist?
A gold Egyptian Ankh medallion.
Interesting. I never noticed that before.
You never noticed what, my love?
You have a tattoo of the Eiffel Tower on the inside of your left thigh.
Ah, you are doing this to distract me, no? But I am worried about you, my Ernie. You are so big and so strong. But this ice pick fellow, he is a dangerous one, no?
Yeah, he's dangerous, but I'll pay him his dough. Ernie Leach always pays his debts.
Maybe you can do some more fencing for this Big Al. He pays well.
Yeah, Big Al's a good customer, but there's only so much fencing I can do for one guy.
This ice pick might try to make the example of you before you can pay him off. He keeps leaving these threatening messages.
Don't worry, baby. Icepick knows he won't get his dough if he kills me. Maybe I can get into a hot poker game down at the Harlem Swinger and win enough money to pay him off.
No, no, no. The gambling is what got you into this mess, my Ernie.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But I've got bigger problems tonight. I saw something I wasn't supposed to see.
What?
You're better off if I don't tell you about it. Now, what's this on the top of your Eiffel Tower tattoo?
I think you know what it is, my Ernie. You've seen it before.
And I always enjoy seeing it again, baby.
Ah, you American men are so charming.
Oh, good evening, Miss Bow.
Hi, Dr. Miklos. I'm sorry if I startled you.
Oh, that's okay. I enjoy being startled. And please, call me Olympia.
Okay, Olympia. You enjoy being startled?
It gets the blood flowing. I love it. I was just trying to find Daisy, my ferret. She usually has the run of the museum, but it's time for me to feed her.
And you think she might be in here?
Well, she's been spending a lot of time in here lately for some reason. She probably likes the unusual smells. Who knows?
Can I help you look for her?
Thanks, but I'm sure I can find her. Would you mind leaving me for a while so she'll come out of hiding?
Certainly. Sorry to disturb you.
You don't hear anything. You don't. Your careful observation reveals that this is a rented tuxedo bearing the marks of repeated alterations. There is a stain above one pocket. A whiff reveals the strong, fresh scent of champagne. Your careful... The blood has begun to clot, darkening and thickening. It's difficult to judge whether or not this blood is primarily from the neck wound or the point where the pterodactyl's beak impaled the body. Or both. Though it hardly seems appropriate, you marvel at the intricacy of the construction. The pterodactyl has been covered with authentic animal hide of some sort, stretched over a rigid framework. There's nothing suspicious about it, however. Close inspection reveals that these rented tuxedo pants have been altered many times. There's a small mustard stain on one leg. Upon close inspection, you find the flesh around the beak contused and purplish, which is normal for this sort of wound. A few tuxedo threads are stuck in the wound. The neck wound reveals many sharp cuts of various lengths, as well as some tearing of the flesh. Either this decapitation was accomplished with an instrument not intended for this purpose, or the victim was still alive and struggling at the time. This is the life mask exhibit. This appears to be the head of an Eskimo. This is the life. The head is from Brazil. This head is from Arabia. Your thoughts are suddenly filled with tales of... It's the head of a Cro-Magnon man. My, how people have changed. This is the life. This is the... This is the... This is... This... This is... This... The Panamanian head looks a little worried. This is the... This is the... This is... This is... This... This is... This is... You gently palpate the room, and the diagnosis is normal. Seems to be covered with a paint-like substance. Probably paint. What fine craftsmanship. Seems to be covered. Seems to This head is from Arabia. This is the life mask exhibit. This is the life mask. This is the life mask exhibit. You haven't seen this many dead-looking, expressionless faces since your accounting class at the university. This is the life. This is, the head is from Mongolia. It's the head of a Cro-Magnon man. My, how people have changed. This is the life. Seems to be covered. It's you, Laura. The head is from Mongolia. The head is. This is the. This. 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 This is. This head is from the Cape region. This head is from Arabia. A head from Algeria. Imagine! The head is attractive, but you'd never stoop to stealing. You gently palpate. You gently. Seems to be covered. This head is French-Canadian. You wonder if French-Canadians are anything like Creoles and Cajuns. This is the life mask. This head is French-Canadian. This appears to be the head of an Eskimo. You wonder if they really do use every part of a seal. This is the life. The Panamanian head looks a little worried. The South American head has strong, regular features. This is the South American head has strong, regular features. This is the life mask exhibit. You haven't seen this many dead-looking, expressionless faces since your accounting class at the university. This is the life mask exhibit. You have the head is from Brazil. It reminds you of your great-aunt Marjorie, who went to Brazil to treat her brain fever and never came back. The head is from Mongolia. This is the life. You gently. The head is a. What fine crafts. It's the head of an Australopithecus man. Poor little fellow. The plaque says there were animal tooth marks in his skull. The head is from Mongolia. This is the life mask exhibit. It's the head of a Ramapithecus man. It's the head of a Cro-Magnon man. This is the The plaque says that this is the missing link. Well, he's hardly missing if he's right here on the wall. The head is attractive. It's the head of an Australian Aborigine. He looks elemental and wise. This is this this is this 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 is this 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 this. It's the head of an Australian Aborigine. He looks elemental and wise. This head is from the Cape. This is the this 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 is the light. This head is from a This head is from Arabia. Your thoughts are suddenly filled with tales of the Arabian Nights. This is the Life Mask exhibit. You haven't seen this many dead-looking, expressionless faces since your accounting class at the university. This is a head from Algeria. Imagine! The head is a life cast of a denizen of Central Africa. You suddenly remember that the Africans developed bronze casting techniques hundreds of years. This person lived off the Ivory Coast. How exciting! This head is from Arabia. This head is from the Mozambique area of Africa. How exotic! This head is from India. You close your eyes, smelling the incense, hearing the temple bells. It's the head of an Australian Aborigine. This is this is this is this is you gently palpate. This is the... Don't touch it. This is... This... It's Ziggy's head! It's Ziggy's...
What is going on in here?
I'd say you've got some explaining to do, young lady. Why are you screaming?
I found Mr. Ziggy's head.
Very odd how you are always finding the bodies, Miss Bow. I think we should be going back to my office and interrogating you now.
Here now, Wolf. The young lady just found a man's head. Give her a moment before you get out your thumb screws then.
Thank you, Mr. O'Reilly.
Don't thank me, lass. I'm not saying you didn't kill the man. I'm just trying to restrain Mr. Heimlich's enthusiasm for his job.
But I will get results. Let me talk to her privately.
Now I realize you're just trying to help, Wolf, but I think we can learn what we need from the lass without harming her.
She could lie and you'd never know it. You Americans are too soft on your criminals.
I just walked in and found his head, that's all.
Well, Mr. Heimlich does have his point, lass. It's a wee bit curious that you keep showing up at the murder scenes before anyone else. How do you explain that, then?
Just lucky, I guess.
Well, you do seem a wee bit small to be sawing off a man's head, I'll say that much.
Thanks.
This Fräulein could have had help, or maybe she's very clever.
Or maybe you're trying to pin the murders on her so you can find the murderer and save your job, eh?
My job is quite secure, Herr O'Reilly.
Oh, really now? A security chief who allows burglars to steal the exhibits, then overlooks several murders happening under his nose. I'd think twice about your security methods if I was running things here.
This is hardly the place to discuss my methods, Herr O'Reilly. We have a suspect to interrogate.
Correction. We have a murder scene to investigate. We can talk to the lass later when she's had a chance to calm down.
Thank you again, sir.
You're a sturdy one, I'll say that much for you. One scream and you've got your head together again, so to speak. Just don't try to leave the museum.
I can't leave. I'm locked in.
Good. We won't have to worry about you then. All right, Wolf. We've got work to do. Let's go get the crime scene tools.
An office door. It's a length of wire. It's a length of wire.
Wolfie, it's...
You pick it up and place it in your purse. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. It's the office. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal trap. These are books on art forgery. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal trap. Joe Bob's Weapons of the World. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of gardening. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of gardening. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security. These are books on art forgery. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal trap. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of gardening. There are many things on these shelves. This bookshelf is dedicated to a complete collection of the Encyclopedia of Interrogation and Torture. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of modern weaponry. Joe Bob's Weapons of the... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal While the This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art. While the topic These are books on art forgery. These are books on These are are books on art. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security, while the topics This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of modern weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to a complete collection of the Encyclopedia of Interrogation and Torture. While the topics of these while the top 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 this book this book this book this 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 bookshelf is dedicated. Apparently these gardening books were left here by the previous tenant of this office. World War I campaign medals. Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany is prominently featured on many of the medals. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of gardening. Apparently This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weapons. This bookshelf is dedicated to a complete collection of the Encyclopedia of Interrogation. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weapon. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security, including such books as Criminals Among Us. While the top Joe Bob's Weapons of the World for 1926, the complete set of books. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal trap. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal trap. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This book That's not the sort of thing you want to examine. Upon close inspection you see nothing new here. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal trap. While the topic, don't touch it. That's not... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This book... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of animal traps. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art. These are books on art forgery. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of art history. This bookshelf... A clean, highly polished desk. This bookshelf... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security. These are books on... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security, including such books as Criminals Among Us. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of gardening. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of modern weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of medieval weaponry. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security. This bookshelf... It's the Office of Security Chief. This bookshelf... Joe Bob's Why, it's a book written by Wolf Heimlich himself. The title is The Heimlich Death Maneuver. How-to books on medieval torture. While the topics of... Don't touch it. Upon close... This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of museum security. This bookshelf is dedicated to the topic of Joe Bob's Why, it's a book written... How to... Joe Bob's Weapons of the World for 1920... Joe Bob... A series of books on torture without leaving scars. The poetry book falls open to a poem, She Walks in Beauty, written by Lord Byron. The page is marked by a black garter with a note pinned to it. The note attached to the garter reads, "You can have the other garter and much more if you meet me at 3 a.m. in the preservation lab." The handwriting is female. Upon close inspection, you see nothing new here. Even the dust in this... Upon close inspection, you see nothing new. That's part of Heimlich's antique weapons collection. A pair of evilly spiked ballet shoes. A heavy cavalry saber. It's one of those exotic oriental weapons you've seen before, although you can never remember the name of it. Part of Heimlich's This is the name, of course. The main advantage of a flail over a common mace. This is a type of spiked flail. World War I camp. It's the office of Security Chief Wolf Heimlich. A variety of shiny metals. Two of them, with packs of dogs carrying birds in their mouths, are marked with the word Reichsjagdgebrauchshundverband. Others appear to be merit badges for the German youth equivalent of the Boy Scouts. A Rumkopf court. You have no You have two letters written in blood on the desktop. Feels like glass. Feels like glass. The letters C and P are carefully written in blood on the desk, as if they were put there by the dying President Carrington. The letters C and P are carefully written in blood on the desk, as if they were put there by the dying President Carrington. The glass on the clock face appears to have been smashed during a struggle. Whether it was a struggle to wind the clock or a struggle for Carrington's life, it's hard to say for certain. The clock appears to have been broken at exactly 12:04 a.m. Countess and Ziggy at 1 a.m. Medieval armor display. Countess and Ziggy at 1 a.m. Medieval armor display. Countess. The note is written in a man's handwriting, probably belonging to Dr. Carrington. The note is written. Countess and Ziggy at 1 a.m. Medieval armor display. It's dripping blood. It's the body of President Archibald Carrington III. You presume the dripping blood belongs to Carrington, since the porcupine was stuffed. There's blood on the porcupine quills. From their position in his body, you infer that the blood belongs to Dr. Carrington. Carrington drooled a bit when he died, and his hair could have used a good wash to get all the grease out of it. While this is an interesting approach, it serves no practical. The note is written in a man. Countess and Ziggy at 1 a.m. Medieval armor display. Looks aren't everything. You see the... Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch... Magnifying the combination dial gives you no clues, since the dial seems relatively unused and shows no signs of wear. Nice try. It feels safe. Glancing through the diary and the male handwriting within, it refers to Sterling's growing fear that the Countess only married him for his money and that she could be planning to kill him. The final entry reads, Yvette fears her too. Not wanting to remove evidence from the crime scene, particularly when you must have broken some sort of law by opening the president's personal wall safe, you decide not to remove the diary. It's a magnified copy of Crime and Punishment. First editions of classic literature. Looks can be deceiving. Looks. The collected catalogues of the Smithsonian Museum. The collected catalog. Numerous first editions looks aren't look. Upon close inspection you see nothing. That's not upon. It's a magnified. You pick it up and place it in your purse. You read a police report on the criminal career of one Watney Little, conman extraordinaire. A magnifying. You admire the wood pulp patterns in the paper. The red stain on the paper cutter blade could be red ink or blood. Perhaps the last person to use it had an accident? A paper cutter with a red blade. The red stain on the paper cutter. The red stain. The red.
Well, well. Good evening, Countess.
What are you doing here?
I just happened to be hiding behind the tapestry.
You're lying.
How could you tell?
Nobody just happens to hide behind a museum tapestry.
And nobody just walks around inside a museum late at night with paintings under their arms.
Paintings? Oh, you mean these paintings? I just found them laying around on the floor and I picked them up so no one would step on them.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Are you accusing me of something, you silly girl?
What do you think?
I think you're a rude girl who needs to learn some manners. The nerve going around accusing people of stealing paintings.
Did I say anything about you stealing them?
Well, of course you did. Don't try to trick me, girl. I've got more tricks than you have brain cells.
One thing I have to ask myself is, why did you bring those paintings to a meeting with Dr. Carrington this time of night?
How did you know I was meeting Dr. Carrington?
I found a note beside his body.
His body? You talk about him like he was dead.
Yes, he is. Dead as a doorknob. You didn't know about it?
You're trying to trick me again. Dr. Carrington is alive and well and working in his office.
Well, you're right about him being in his office, but he's quite dead, I assure you.
Oh, my God!
And you seem to be a logical murder suspect.
Wait a second. You're not going to pin this one on me. I didn't have anything to do with it. Why would I want to kill him? We've got a perfectly good art burglary scheme going.
Art burglary?
I think I said too much.
If you're trying to convince me that you're not the murderer, you're not doing a very good job of it.
What do I care what you think anyway? You're not a cop.
But I am a reporter, and I could write about you in the newspaper. Of course, your reputation would be ruined, and the police would get very interested in you. But you're tough, so I'm sure you could handle it.
Look, it was just a little deal I worked out with Dr. Carrington. An art forger duplicates the paintings on the wall of the gallery. Then we hang them up in place of the real ones, which we sell to private collectors.
Didn't you think someone would catch on after a while?
Are you kidding? That's the beauty of the plan. When we had replaced all the paintings, we were going to slash them and make it look like someone vandalized the real paintings. No one would ever think we'd go to the trouble of forging paintings just to destroy them. And Carrington is here to see that no one gets too nosy.
You mean he was here?
I swear I didn't have anything to do with his death. He was my cash cow. I brought him over from Europe just for this reason. Now that's it. I'm not saying any more about it. I don't feel like talking about that now.
Dr. Carter's skin is cold and disgusting to the touch. He definitely gives the appearance of being dead. You get no question. Dr. Carter's body has been indelicately crammed into the suit of armor. His filmy eyes gaze in mute shock. His head is bent at an unlikely angle, and the skin is puckered where the helmet's edges bite into the expanding flesh. It's Dr. You hear muffled voices coming through the door to Yvette's office.
Oh, Dr. Smith, I appreciate your help so much.
Well, I don't particularly appreciate giving it. I have things to do, Miss Delacroix. Important things.
But surely you can spare the time to help me move my desk, no?
Oh, I suppose. Why do you want to move it anyway?
Oh, there is a terrible stain on the rug. I don't want it to show. We don't have to move the desk very far.
All right. Oh, it's heavy. Oh!
Oh, I am so sorry. Did you hurt yourself?
Yes. Oh no, I'm bleeding. You owe me one, miss.
But of course, Mr. Smith. I'll do anything you say. Anything. Didn't I let you in when you asked? Didn't I keep your secret?
Yes, I suppose you did. And I'm sorry about bleeding on your carpet. At least it'll blend in with the old stain. What is that anyway?
Oh, it is only strawberry jam.
I'm sure I don't want to know, Yvette.
Probably not, Dr. Smith. Now, let's go to your place.
The intercom crackles and you hear,
Ernie, it's Olympia. The release valve in number 13 seems to be jammed. Take a look at it when you have a chance.
you pick it up and place it. Don't touch it. Don't. Ernie's index to the stored items in the alcohol vats. Don't touch it. That. Current vat contents, Alcoholic Preservation Lab. 1. Koala bears. Current... The trunk has a name tag identifying it as part of Carrington's personal luggage. Beside it is another sticker emblazoned with the logo Andrea Doria. You pick it up and place it in your purse. Daisy will furiously flash across the floor on fleet ferret feet if you try to catch her. It's a sack of plaster, sometimes used for making molds. You pick it up and place it in your purse. A wooden workbench. A wooden. The container is full of an oily liquid. A full bottle of Dr. Moribund's guaranteed snake oil. Don't touch it. You don't know where it's been. You pick it up and there's a VAT 10 is VAT 14. VAT 13. Could it be? Yes. It's heavy. It's shiny. It's real gold. It's got a sharp point at one end. It's the Dagger of Amon Ra. You pick it up and place it. Boy, the alcohol fumes sure are strong in here.
Fräulein Boll, this laboratory is dangerous. I will not warn you again.
Have you ever wondered? Don't take.
Fräulein Boll, this laboratory is dangerous and verboten to the public. You will leave now. I will not warn.
While this, 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 while this is. You pick it up and place it in your purse. You're in the terror. Your finger. A painting of the Black Prince as a fierce baby by a rare 17th century English tapestry which tells the story of Teutonic warrior cockroaches that cross. Although since 1 year after. A typical light-hearted painting by anonymous Bosch called The Oil Pa- The Oil The Oil Paint The Oil The Oil. Inspecting the painting carefully, you note the bloody quality of the red pigment and recall that Bosch was known for the use of human blood in his paintings. While this is an inter... While this... While this... While this... While this... While... Inspect... With careful use of the wire cutters, you manage to remove the skeleton key without damaging the Bosch painting. The trunk has a name tag identifying
Oh!
it appears to be a gold pocket watch. You pick it up and a valuable gold pocket watch. A valuable. You feel something engraved on the watch case. You feel a valuable. You feel a valuable. While this you hear muffled voices coming through the door to Yvette's office. You hear nothing.
You lied to me.
Well, lass, I guess that makes us even. You lied to me.
You had something to do with the Dagger burglary.
You've been sleeping with someone else. I saw you go off with that dock worker.
I've never slept with Steve, and this Ziggy fellow, he told me about you and the Dagger.
And you believed that little weasel. I've arrested the man more times than I can count.
The Ziggy, I know him a long time. He would not lie to me.
That man'd lie to his own mother if someone paid him for it.
Ziggy, he says you were working with the Carrington to steal the Dagger.
Lies! You can't be trusting the man. If he wasn't already dead, I'd pound the truth out of him.
Maybe you already did.
Were you sleeping with the little rat then?
Of course not.
You really surprise me, lass. I'd think you grew up on the streets accusing me of burglary like that.
Where I grew up doesn't matter, does it? The important thing is... Wait, did you hear something at the door?
Yeah, I was hearing it too. Keep your voice down then.
Wolfie, your facial scars are so wonderful. How did you get them?
Fencing, my strudel. As a young man, I would fence with my Heidelberg friends. We would stop our opponent's saber just before it went through our faces, which would make the scars you see now.
Ah, that is very interesting. You did not use masks to protect your faces?
Nein, that would have been considered unmanly.
You'll have to show me how to do that sometime.
There are many things I can show you, my strudel.
Perhaps we should go somewhere less public, Wolfie.
Oh yeah, good idea. Particularly since there's that annoying reporter wandering around the museum. That is not something I would have allowed if I was running things here.
Give it time, Wolfie. Perhaps you will be running things here someday, if I have anything to say about it.
Oh? What can you do?
There are ways, but come, let us speak of these things in more privacy.
The door is locked. Ernie's suspenders are intact, which saves you from much embarrassment. The fabric of the shirt appears to be clinging somewhat to Ernie's chest. Ernie's neck is stretched backwards, tilting his head back at an extreme angle. Ernie's pants appear to be clinging somewhat to his legs. Ernie's arm is draped over a tusk in a casual pose. If he weren't dead, he'd look like an ad for menswear. The hairs are bristled and clearly animal in origin, with a faint smell of alcohol. You pick it up and place it in your purse. You examine Ernie's head carefully, searching for contusions, bruises, or other evidence of foul play. You see little, but you do notice a faint odor, not immediately identifiable. You examine. The pants are intact.
Ach, you are smelling like the brewery, mein Capitan. Either you've been drinking, or you've been eating too many of those grapes.
Sure and begorra. A man needs a little nip from his flask now and then, doesn't he?
Personally, I do not require the drinking of the alcohol. It would impair my mental and physical skills.
Ernie Leach has been murdered!
What was that, lass?
Ernie is dead!
So, you finally come to us to confess, is that it?
Confess? No! I'm reporting a murder!
And you was the first one to find the body again?
Well, I guess so.
Quite a coincidence, Fräulein. I think we should be interrogating you to learn the truth! I've had enough of your lies!
Calm down, Heimlich. If there's any interrogating to be done, I'll be the one who does it. Now then, lass, where did you find the body?
The mastodon room. He's hanging from some mastodon tusks.
Ach, he's probably just sleeping on the job.
No, I'm sure he's dead.
Well, I'll go take a look at him then. If I need to talk to you, I'll find you later.
You're doing a fine job, Laura. When you push the button, you hear a sliding noise off in the distance, clearly originating outside of this room. Have you ever... When you push the button, you hear a This leads
My Ernie, he was a wonderful man. I really loved him.
Oh, sure you did. I know your type, Yvette. I know you didn't really love him.
But I did. Ernie was the first man I've ever really loved. I was even trying to find work for him so he could make the extra money.
Why did he need extra money? He had a good job here, didn't he?
It was the gambling. The ice pick. He killed my Ernie for the gambling debts.
Ernie wasn't killed with an ice pick.
No, the ice pick is the... how do you say it? The lone fish.
Lone fish? Oh, you mean ice pick is the name of a loan shark?
Oui, the ice pick is an evil man.
You're sure he's the one who killed Ernie?
My Ernie, he was worried about the ice pick. He told me about him this evening.
Very curious. I'm surprised you had time to see Ernie tonight.
Why is that?
Because you've been spending so much time with Mr. Dorian.
Oh, you mean the Steve? He is the attractive man, but we are only the friends, no? But my Ernie, what will I do without him?
I can see you're upset. I'll leave you alone. Steve! Mr. Dorian.
Miss Bow.
Thank you for showing me your scars, Steve. They were very, very nice.
Haven't seen you in a while, Mr. Dorian.
Well, women keep carrying me off.
Carrying you off?
Yeah. First, Miss Delacroix pulled me away from the party to show me the old Masters Gallery. Then there was Dr. Miklos. She's been pestering me about my scars ever since she found out I worked on the docks. Weird lady.
You don't seem too upset by all the attention.
Well, I would rather have spent the time with you.
I'd think a big, strong man like you would have been able to get away from them if you wanted to do so.
Well, I hate to be rude, and I did end up finding you here.
Have you heard about the murders?
Murders? Oh, I guess somebody did mention that.
You seem kind of distracted.
Yeah, well, I've got news for you, too. I think some of the paintings in the old Masters Gallery are forgeries. The paint is still wet on some of them.
Yes, well, I hardly think that...
Oh, Steve, a terrible thing has happened. Ernie is dead.
Ernie?
Yes, my Ernie. What will I do? Oh, I need a big man to cry on. Please, come into my office.
Sorry, Miss Bow. The poor woman seems very upset. Maybe there's something I can do for her.
I can just guess what that is.
We can talk more later, okay?
We'll see about that.
You hear muffled voices coming through the door to Yvette's office.
Ooh la la.
How does that feel?
It is magnifique. Mmm.
I'm not rubbing too hard, am I?
The harder the better, mon ami.
Well, we all get a little stiff now and then.
Ooh, and you are so good at working out the kinks. Mmm.
Would you mind not moaning so loud? You might draw attention.
Ooh, I cannot be helping it. You are so big and so strong. Mmm.
Oh my.
Oh, dear!
Miss Bow,
Sacré bleu.
I can explain this.
I bet you can, Mr. Dorian.
I'm just rubbing her neck.
Oui, and he does it so well.
I'll just leave you two alone.
Miss Bow, wait!
It's a petite woman's shoe. You pick it up and place it in your purse. It looks like a shred of clothing fabric. It looks like a... You don't need it. Since the floor is an... Since the... Since... 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 It's on the floor, but it's actually a desk lamp. Red hairs. Feels like red hair. While this is an While this It appears to be a pair of bifocal glasses. Don't touch it. Red hair. Don't touch. Don't You pick it up and place it in your purse. You pick it up and place it in your purse. There are a few scratches on Yvette's skin, as if she was in a struggle before she died. There is plaster in all of the openings on Yvette's face: mouth, nostrils, eyes, ears. She has several scratches on her face, as well as cuts on her lips. That's not... You pick it up and place it in your purse. The blood is red and almost dry. There seems to have been a struggle here. There are a few spots of blood on the floor.
Countess, why are you tied up on my desk? Your face has certainly changed to an attractive pale color, my dear. You seem a little under the weather. Are you okay? Oh dear, you don't look well at all. O'Reilly! You want Mr. O'Reilly? Okay, just wait right here and I'll go get him. Hello, Miss Bo. Do you know where Mr. O'Reilly is?
Well, no, not exactly. I assume he's still in the museum.
Well, I'll find him. If you see him first, would you tell him that the Countess is dying on the desk in my office?
The Countess is dying? What's wrong with her?
Well, she's looking rather pale. Her eyes are glazed, and she's not breathing much. I'd guessed she'd been bitten by a snake.
By a snake?
Must you keep repeating everything I say? In any case, I've got to go now.
Don't touch... It's used carbon paper. Rubbing the charcoal over the notepad, a gold Egyptian Ankh medallion, odd-looking hairs, possibly from a smelly old work boot. Long range. It's used a length, odd-looking hairs, possibly from some kind of an animal. While this is It's you, Laura Bow, fresh out of college and already working for a great metropolitan news. It's you.
Oh!
It's the dead leg of the Countess. It's the bound and dead body of the... You pick it up and place it in your purse. You detect a trickle of what could prove to be cobra venom. You deem it wise not to touch it when you remember that it's a neurotoxin that causes progressive paralysis leading to respiratory failure. That biology class was useful after all. You detect her fingernails are a scientific paper with the title Social Habits of the Cherrystone Clam. You pick it up and place it in your purse. So far so good. Keep it up. You hear the sound of someone breaking down a door in the next room. If you would, while this is, while this, while this, while this, while this, while this is, while the, if you, while the, it's a lot, the cable holding. Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. You pick it up and place it in your purse. While this is an the snake shifts just a little and you hear a click. You hear ominous chanting as you encounter a strange ceremony.
Oh my goodness! Excuse me, I was looking for the women's lounge?
You're coming with us, young lady.
I think you're making a mistake.
You've seen too much. We can't let you go.
Not to worry. I won't remember seeing this room, or you, or anything. Really. I've got a terrible memory. Can't even remember my own name half the time.
I'm sorry you found us. Our cult of Amon Ra must remain a secret. There is too much at stake here. Too many important people are involved.
Cult of Amon Ra? In the museum basement?
This room is a forgotten part of the original museum. We are safe here, as long as no outsiders are aware of our existence.
Oh, well, my lips are sealed. If you want to dance and sing and have little meetings down here, that's your business.
You cannot be trusted, Miss Bow. You're a newspaper reporter. We could be a featured article on page 1 of tomorrow's newspaper if we let you go.
But people are going to miss me. They'll search the museum.
The police will never find this room or your body.
You don't really plan to kill me, do you?
Of course not.
What a relief.
Kill is such an ugly word. Actually, we're going to sacrifice you to Amon Ra.
Can we talk about this?
There is nothing to discuss. You should be proud to die in such an honorable fashion. Young Egyptian maidens used to fight for the privilege of being sacrificed to the great Amon Ra.
Now wait a minute. I thought the ancient Egyptians didn't make human sacrifices.
You're familiar with the history of ancient Egypt, Miss Bow?
Well, I've learned a few things.
Perhaps we could test you.
Do I have any other options?
We can test you or sacrifice you. It's your choice.
I'm liking this idea more and more. What kind of a test is it?
Amon Ra may choose to intervene on your behalf. It is our tradition that we must let you live if you can answer Amon Ra's riddle.
Great.
Of course, you'll have to answer the riddle with hieroglyphics.
I was afraid it would be something like that. Okay, what's the riddle?
Actually, it's a two-part riddle. What is the room you leave without entering? That's correct. Now, the second riddle. What is the room you enter without leaving? Very impressive. You are the first person who ever answered that riddle correctly. The wise Amon-Ra apparently wants us to spare your life. Will you swear to keep our location a secret?
Of course.
Then you may leave. May the great Amon-Ra guide your footsteps.
Thank you. Now I just have to outrun the person who's been chasing me.
Who is chasing you? Do you think they'll find their way in here?
I'm not sure who it is, but I believe it's the same person who stole the Dagger of Amon-Ra from its display case. And I'm sure they'll find their way in here.
If that is true, they will not leave this room alive. I suggest you leave through our secret escape route behind the altar. Go now, and remember your promise.
While this is an inter- while this smelling salt. Steve being the Steve.
Oh, my head. What happened? Laura?
Yes, Steve. I was so worried about you. Are you all right?
I think so. I remember hearing somebody coming up behind me, and as I turned around, somebody slugged me. Cripes, my head hurts.
They must have dumped you down the coal chute. Let me see where you were hit.
I'm all right. Don't touch it.
Honestly, you men can be such crybabies. Do you think you can walk? We have to get out of here. Somebody's been murdering everybody in this museum, and whoever it is after me.
I can make it. I'm with you. Where do we go?
Good question.
An immense furnace. While You hear the sound of gunfire from the direction of the furnace room.
Sounds like someone's chasing us, Laura.
You watch in relief as the last of the rats scurries out of sight. You can barely smell an unpleasant odor, like burning hair. With a little more effort, you'll be the best investigative reporter Tulane ever graduated.
Thank you for coming to this inquest, Miss Bow. As the coroner on this case, I'm going to informally question you and study the evidence you've collected. If you assist me in developing a case, the perpetrators will be tried in the formal court of law. We're primarily concerned with the museum murders, but we're also interested in the theft of the Dagger of Amon-Ra and other matters that may have a bearing on this case. My examination of the corpses has been fruitful, but I need more evidence to build a case. Any information you can give us would help, but you must justify your conclusions with the evidence you've acquired. False accusations and unsupported conclusions will not be tolerated. Although I don't wish to pressure you, your employer is also here to judge your performance on this investigation. Since this is an informal proceeding, I've allowed it on the basis that your newspaper will cooperate with our wishes. Now, to the questions. Who murdered Dr. Pippin Carter? Who murdered Lawrence Ziggy Ziegfeld? Who murdered Ernie Leach? Who murdered Yvette Delacroix? Who murdered Countess Lavinia Waldorf-Carleton? Who was the skeleton found in the steamer trunk? Who murdered Dr. Archibald Carrington? Who impersonated Dr. Archibald Carrington? Who murdered Watney Little? Who actually stole the Dagger of Amon-Ra from the Ancient Egypt exhibit? Who manipulated Watney Little into stealing the Dagger of Amon-Ra? Who was the woman involved in stealing paintings from the Old Masters Gallery? Based on what we now know, your assumption is correct, Miss Bow. Good work. Who was the man involved in stealing paintings from the Old Masters Gallery? Based on what we now know, your assumption is correct, Miss Bow. Good work. Who was the middleman who provided forged paintings for the Countess and sold the real ones for her? Based on what we now know, your assumption is correct, Miss Bow. Good work. Who is the high priest of the Amon-Ra sun worshippers? That's correct, Miss Bow. You're very observant. Which museum employee runs a fencing operation as a sideline business? That assumption is correct. Mr. Leach was moonlighting with his own business as a fence installer. In fact, he put up a very nice fence around my house.
I have one final piece of evidence to present, Mr. Coroner. I have an eyewitness who would only feel safe to come forth if I established my case against Mr. O'Reilly. Now that I've done so, let me introduce Dr. Patah Shep-Tut Smith of the Cairo Museum.
Mr. Smith's testimony is safe with us.
Many thanks. I was in the Egyptian ceremonial room, underneath the museum, when Detective O'Reilly killed 2 of my fellow sun worshippers. I saw with my own eyes how he gunned them down without mercy when they tried to stop him from chasing Miss Bow. However, we only managed to slow him down. His hood fell back briefly, revealing his evil face to us as he slaughtered our people. That son of a camel should not be allowed to run free upon the sands.
Will you testify in court to what you witnessed, Mr. Smith?
Happily, sir. My dead fellows expect their revenge, although Amon-Ra will certainly destroy O'Reilly's car when he journeys through the underworld.
I'm not qualified to give my opinion on Mr. O'Reilly's spirit in the next world, Mr. Smith, but I'm sure your testimony will help your dead friends sleep peacefully. Thank you for coming forth. I must admit that I'm impressed by your methods, Miss Bow. Not only have you identified the murderers of those unfortunate individuals, but you have also uncovered the skullduggery involving the Dagger of Amon-Ra. Our case is very strong now and prosecution can begin. The New York Police Department owes you a debt of gratitude for your assistance in apprehending these malefactors. I'm sure that a commendation of valor from the police department is in order. Thank you for your help.
It's all that lousy reporter's fault. Damned interfering Laura Bow. Thinks she can get away with squealing on me, does she? Well, she's got another thing coming. Do you hear me, Laura Bow? You'll pay for this. If it's the last thing I ever do!
Thank you for waiting, Laura.
I didn't mind, Steve.
Laura,
Yes?
would you mind... do you suppose... Laura, could you close your eyes? I have something for you.
Oh, I suppose so. Oh, Steve!
Do you like it?
Steve, how could you? How could you have stolen the dagger?
I didn't steal the dagger, Laura. I bought this copy for you at the museum gift shop. I thought you might like a memento of your big night at the Leyendecker Museum.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I'm so embarrassed.
You're beautiful when you blush. Laura,
Yes, Steve?
would you consider joining me for dinner this coming Saturday?
Well, I'm not sure if I... I don't know if I should really. Yes. Yes, I'd be delighted to join you for dinner.
Thank you, Laura. You've made me very happy.
Oh, Steve.
Oh, Laura.
Oh, Steve.
Since his skeleton was so nicely cleaned by the domestic beetles, Dr. Carrington's bones will soon be hanging on display in the Leyendecker Museum. Yvette Delacroix died plastered. Her remarkably lifelike statue now lives on in the Old Masters Gallery of the Leyendecker Museum. Her memory lives on in the minds of all she touched. Her sculpture is attributed to Ryan O'Reilly, 1926. Pleased by your success at finding his dagger of Amon-Ra and his murderer, Dr. Pippin Carter now rests in peace. Pippin Carter's body was transported to Egypt by his cousin and now occupies a place of archaeological honor in the Temple of Amon-Ra in the Valley of the Kings. Due to your success at recovering the dagger of Amon-Ra and finding the murderer, Wolf Heimlich continued as chief of security at the Leyendecker Museum. 2 months later, he was married to Dr. Olympia Miklos. 2 years after they were married, Wolf and Olympia had a child they named Morgana Wolf Heimlich. Having died in the course of this story, Watney Little's life of crime came to an abrupt end. As he was not a nice man, nobody missed him. Due to your success at recovering the dagger of Amon-Ra and finding the murderer, Dr. Olympia Miklos married Wolf Heimlich, who continued as chief of security at the Leyendecker Museum. 2 years after they were married, Wolf and Olympia had a child they named Morgana Wolf Heimlich. As fond as he was of the Leyendecker, Ernie Leach noted in his will that he wanted his body donated to the museum. His body now resides in numerous small jars of alcohol, which will be placed on display in the new Hall of Internal Biology, adjacent to the Hall of Late Mammals. Dr. Ptah Tut Smith finally gave up on getting the dagger of Amon-Ra returned to Egypt. However, once it completed its US and European museum tours, it was returned to the Cairo Museum anyway. So, several years later, Tut died a happy man, even though his death was the result of an Egyptian cobra bite. After losing his head in the museum, Ziggy found himself unable to continue his criminal career. His head has been preserved and is now on display in the Life Mask exhibit at the Leyendecker Museum. Ramses Najir continued his successful career as an accountant and as head of the secret Egyptian cult of Amon-Ra. With his strong high society ties, his accounting business made Ramses a millionaire in 15 years. Having died from a snake bite, the Countess Lavinia Waldorf Carlton did not live long enough to inherit any money from her last husband, Sterling. Thoroughly impressed by your success as a reporter, your editor Sam Augustini nominated you for a Pulitzer Prize and was present when you received your Citation of Valor from the police department. Sam retired 10 years later to become a gentleman cabbage farmer, fulfilling a secret lifelong dream. Pleased at your success, Crodfoller T. Rhubarb was happy to become your assistant at the New York Daily Register News Tribune. Henri Lamour, the coroner, continued his successful career studying dead bodies for the next 50 years, finally retiring in 1976 to tour with a rock band, the Ungrateful Dead. Low Fat continued in the laundry business, eventually opening a chain of low-fat Chinese laundries across the country and becoming a millionaire in the process. Former Detective Ryan Hanrahan O'Reilly was sentenced to 60 years in a state penitentiary. Having been a cop, O'Reilly found it hard to make friends in prison. After your successful completion of the museum assignment, you started dating Steve Dorian. Thrilled with your success, John Bow spent the rest of his life telling people what a wonderful daughter you were and how he had taught you everything you knew about criminology. After your recovery of the Dagger of Amon-Ra, it went back on display at the Leyendecker Museum. The large amount of press coverage drew many patrons to the museum to see the dagger. After 2 years on display at the Leyendecker, the Dagger exhibit continued on a tour of museums in the United States, Europe, and finally found its way back to the Cairo Museum in Egypt.